Welcome to Friday, May 31st edition of Featured Gem Fridays. I'm Karina from Karina Osborne Reiki Practitioner, and during this chat, I have the opportunity to sit down with gems in business to talk about their business. Today, I will be speaking with Michelle from the Cellar about her journey. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Karina. It's great to be here today.
I'm so excited to be here with you and having this opportunity to chat. As you know, I like to jump right into it. So why don't you tell us the long or short version of your journey to becoming the founder of the Cellar?
Okay, I will. So I want to start like way back actually, because I think it's really important to understand the things that you can overcome during your lifetime so that you can achieve the goals that you really want to achieve. So I grew up and not in a great situation. My mom and dad were divorced when I was really young. My mom was mentally abusive. We were on welfare. We had no money. So it's not a good situation. We lived in a really, really small community. I felt that I wasn't getting a good education, all of these things. I knew I wasn't coming from a good school, so wanting to go to college, I knew I probably wouldn't get into a good program, etc. So, growing up, I just always remember, wanting to get out and to figure out how to become self-sufficient, how to not have to rely on other people, how to make my own life for myself, basically. And I think that actually, all the negatives aside, I think those struggles while I was really young really gave me the strength to do everything that I've done so far. And, when I run across obstacles, I don't think that I don't view them as big as other people do, right, if that makes any sense. So I started, okay, so when I was wanting to go to college to begin with, I didn't have enough money, obviously, to pay for school. So the big question was, okay, how am I going to do this, right? So the first thing was, okay, what am I going to do? So it was academics was one of the ways, to get into school, to try to get a scholarship of some sort. And also at the time, one of the things that I considered was trying to get a ROTC scholarship through the military as well, because that was another great opportunity. And I did manage to land an alternate position for a ROTC scholarship in aerospace engineering.
Oh, cool.
I know, strange, right? Aerospace engineering into accounting and then into selling rocks. So we'll go through all of that. Anyway, so I had an alternate position for a ROTC scholarship, but someone would have had to have dropped out of the program for me to be able to do that. So I wasn't able to I basically wasn't able to get into that program. And so I had to leave the university that I had chosen to go to and come back to our local university where my stepdad was a professor. So I did have free tuition there. I didn't live at home and they weren't paying for anything, but at least the tuition part was paid for. And so I worked 40 to 50 hours a week. I tutored for the university. I waited tables. I bartended. I busted my butt and I took crazy, course credits, and, I wanted to get the biggest bang for my buck, basically, and anyway, so when I went back to that state school, they didn't have very many programs. And so it was really business or science. You had two choices there. And I decided to try, the business side. Started taking some courses. Really, believe it or not, I really enjoyed accounting, and I knew it would give me the best business basis for any type of business that I would go into. And so I chose accounting, and I was working on a minor in international business at the time. And while I was in undergrad, I always knew that I was going to go to Thunderbird, or that's where I wanted to go. It was the top international business school in the world at the time. And, that was my goal. That's what I wanted to eventually do. So well, let's see what happened. So I actually was planning on going another semester in college, and I had been interviewing the prior semester with some of the local accounting firms, and I had actually been hired by one of them, and so I was going to start after I graduated after the next semester. But they called me in December and said, hey, we're short-staffed. Is there, we know you have enough credits to graduate. Could you possibly do this? So I just put my papers in. I never went through graduation. I just graduated and went straight into tax season, and 100-hour work weeks, So, there's this theme in my life of this crazy working, ridiculous hours and things like that, but I actually thrive on it and I enjoy it. And so I spent 18 months doing public accounting, and then I did get into the graduate school that I wanted. I got into Thunderbird, and so I went to Thunderbird. I took out a ton of loans and did my studies there. I graduated with my concentration is in finance and Latin American studies. And out of school there were 3 investment bank training programs open in the US market at the time because, and you won't even remember because I know you're a lot younger than I am. So anyway, at that point in time, all the banks were consolidating. And, there were bank layoffs left and right. Everybody had trashed their training programs and their programs for the graduate kids coming out. And so there were literally only 3 programs available in the entire United States.
Wow.
Right. One of them was with Nations Bank, which acquired Bank of America and then took Bank of America's name. And one was Goldman, and then the other one was I think it was HSBC. But anyway, I got into the Nations Bank program. I also got into the Goldman program, but I had already started the Nations Bank program and went through that. And immediately after I fulfilled my obligations with them, I set my mind, well, even before I started, my mind was always set to go to New York, because if you were going to do banking, that was the place to be. That's where you made the money. That's where you made your career. And from there, if you were successful there, you could really do whatever you wanted. So that's exactly what I did. And I interviewed like crazy, sent tons of resumes while I was still working at Nations Bank. And I'm like, I got to get this, I got to get something. And, and the whole time too, I'm visioning being there and working, and every time I would send a resume, I would just sit there and I would really concentrate on putting myself there and thinking back to today. You know what I'm sort of creating that loop. And so put a lot of just mental energy into it, as well as, just the time itself to do, all the applications and whatnot. I had a bunch of interviews in New York. I had a number of offers, and I took one with a company called SocGen, Societe Generale, which was at the time the 5th largest bank in the world, and worked with them for a number of years. And by age 27, I was actually running their commodity finance business in charge of North and South America.
Wow.
So yeah, really crazy. And all of a sudden I found myself in this position where, I hadn't expected to get that far for at least 15, maybe 20 years. Most people don't even get that far. And here I am at 27, 28 years old doing this. Totally, it was funny. I'll have to just, I'm just going to regress here for a minute, but I still remember getting called into the head of the bank's office because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. What did I do? Exactly, right? And instead they offered me the position because they were letting my boss go. And they had already gone out and spoken to all of my clients, and they were very supportive. And they basically said to me, look, we know you're really young. We're going to give you this opportunity. Just promise that if you need help, you're going to ask. And, but your clients are super supportive, and so we're behind you. And that was really the jump start to my career and my ability then to move on into the private equity space. I went to work with GE for a number of years, and I ran a $2 billion private equity portfolio for them. You know, GE Wind Energy, I was the one that was doing the advisory work for our internal group. I was advising Power Systems on that acquisition. So, and I was the one that basically said, no, we're going to pre-pack it out of bankruptcy, et cetera. And anyway, so, yeah, so I had a great career at GE and did many things there, did a lot of restructuring, a lot of bankruptcy work, ran the Enron bankruptcy for them, and a number of other things. And then I decided to go off on my own. And so again, it's one of those situations where, sorry, my phone is ringing. I apologize.
Okay. Life happens.
You know what it is? I think it was the township. They were sending probably because of the tornado warnings and stuff. So anyway,
just
so where was
I? Side note, that's definitely talking about how we work through our struggles, right? So just a side note, I had to put that in. But go ahead, sorry.
Okay, no, not a problem. So, okay, so where was I? I was, I started my own I decided to leave GE, and it was, you know, here you are, you've got a great career, you're doing, you know, you're in these positions that other people would die to have, and you just like drop it all and go, oh, I'm going to start a consulting business and go off on my own, right?
Yeah.
So, and again, you know, a lot of my clients had been really supportive of me doing that. And they were like, you know, you really should do this. I wanted to do more operational activity, et cetera. And so I started that business 17 years ago. And I have been doing that ever since. And I work for myself, and I work for a lot of the private equity funds and other small businesses, medium-sized businesses, large businesses, whether it's starting companies from scratch and building them for, you know, literally from nothing. Here, we want to get into this business, build a company for us. I do that for private equity firms, or, you know, I'll go into a company and help them either grow, turn around, acquire another business, whatever really needs to be done. But I'm brought in, I'm effectively a hired gun, where when the executive team either doesn't have the capability or the bandwidth to do it themselves, I'll come in and I step in, usually as one of the C-suite people within the company, and help them through that stage. And then I move on to my next gig. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. I love what I do. You know, but again, none of this has been, you know, it's not easy. You know, people see successful people and they automatically think, oh, you know, that's not me. I can't do that. It's all about choices. It's all about choices. And the reality is you are 100% in control of your destiny, of what, you know, you want to have happen. I'm not going to say it's not easy. It's never easy. And, you know, I think that a lot of people give up too soon. They always have an excuse why not. Instead of saying yes, they always find the no. Well, I can't because, well, why can you? You know? So after this 17 years, and I'm still consulting, but what I am doing now as well is building this business, which is called the Rock Cellar, like Cellar, C-E-L-L-A-R, like fine wines. Anyway, I have been an avid mineral collector forever. I actually started collecting when I was very, very little, and I was telling Karina earlier that I got my first 100-piece geology set with all these little mineral specimens. It was 100 pieces from the Smithsonian Institution when I was 6 years old. So that was the start, and it's always been a passion. I've got a massive collection of minerals and crystals and just really neat things from all over the world. And believe it or not, it was Sarah at the Sisters Enchanted that said to me, "Why do you really need to start a crystal business?"
Yeah.
And you know what? Instead of going, no, I said, okay, why not? And that's how this started. So
that's so amazing. Like, what a story, first of all. And second of all, I really liked, you touched a little bit about it before you talked about the rock cellar, which I love the double entendre. It's like my favorite thing. Puns are my jam. Wish I could have come up with a punny thing there, but anyway. I really liked how you started off from the get-go of talking about how the struggles you had while you were young, and even just like how your family was on welfare, like that kind of stuff, that showed you the strength that you had at such a young age. Mm-hmm. What great insight, first of all, but what a great driving force to kind of like have you say to yourself, like, this is what I would say is the bottom, not the bottom of society, but this is the bottom of where I want to be ever again. And from now on, I'm only ever going to go up, and I'm going to take that and just do what I can with it. And even when you were talking about when you were 27 years old and they were offering you this, very large position for especially a woman, and not saying women can't do it, but a woman at that time and of that age as well. And that could have been a moment of fear, and you saying, no, I don't think I can. But just that driving force again, saying, well, if you're offering me this opportunity, then yeah, I can do it. Like, I've already shown you I can do it. I'm gonna fulfill that. So that's amazing. I love that. Is there any moments in your life where you really were like, this is hard? Like, how am I going to overcome this? That catalyst kind of that says, that made you pull deep down on that strength from when you were a little girl to move forward. I'd love you to speak about that, because.
Okay, so yes, and I would say more. No, I mean, you always have those times. Okay, yeah. That's really, no matter how. And that's something that people should always remember. No matter how successful no matter when they're looking at someone and they see them as successful, you have to understand you always have these struggles. Everybody does. It's not all, happy and everything's perfect all the time. Mm-hmm. So thinking back, at those times, I mean, again, when I was really little, I wanted to get out of the house. I didn't want to be under the control of my parents. It was a bad situation, and literally daily I would sit in my window in my bedroom and just go, okay, if I can just make it until I'm 18, I can leave. Seriously, this was a daily thing from the time as far back as I can remember, which is sad, I mean, seriously, I mean, I remember this, I can remember doing that as young as like 6. And it was constant that whole time. And it was a constant battle. And, and then the battle became, how am I going to pay for college? How am I going to do this? Because if I can't go to college, I'm not going to be able to make this happen. So, and it was every single time it was about achieving that next step. It wasn't, you're not looking 20 years out into the future. I mean, you are sort of, but what you're really focused on is that next goal. And I think, and that's one thing, another thing that I learned, and I think that a lot of people don't do, is, just seriously, it's literally one foot in front of the other, it's that simple. What is that next goal? And just focused on that. And you worry about, you get there and then you worry about the next thing next. Yeah. Because what's the worst that's going to happen to you? The worst that's going to happen to you is you're going to lose everything and you have to start all over again. I'm not going to die. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, my husband and I talk about this all the time, and it's one of the things that also, you have to be willing to take risks. You have to be able to, you have to be willing to sacrifice. You have to be willing to really go for it. If you truly want to win big, you have to take big risks.
Right.
So yeah. So, again, it was how the heck am I going to pay for college? How am I going to get to go to college? That was the big thing, because my parents weren't going to pay for it. I had to figure that in high school. I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to do that, and you've got to figure it all out on your own, because you don't have any freaking help at all.
Right.
And at the time, our guidance counselors were miserable, and you know what I mean? You didn't get you have to remember, this was in the 70s and the 80s. I mean, like I said, I'm old. So anyway, the world, we didn't have the internet. We didn't even have computers, okay? At the time, people used those little punch cards. That's what computers were. So that, it really dates and puts things into perspective. So first it was, how am I going to get to college? And then it was, okay, I need to find a good job. How am I going to do this? And it was every single step was, you're filled with fear. You're filled with concern, and you have to, of course everybody's emotional about it, but you have to strip that out. You have to look at things logically. You have to figure out how, and then you just do it. Yeah. You don't even look back. You just do it. Just dive in and go. Because again, the worst that can happen is you fail and you have to start all over again.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. And people are so, and I say so there was that. And then, it was when I first started working in New York. I mean, I had no freaking money. I was living in a dive freaking apartment that had cockroaches, that was in a really nasty part of the city. And I was working in Midtown Manhattan. I was living in New Jersey. I could see the building that I worked in Midtown from where I went. It took me 2 hours to get to work. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And it cost me a fortune. My commute every day was like $30 back in, the early 90s. I mean, think about this. That was a lot of money. Yep. And, here I am, I've got a freaking, college loans the size of a mortgage. You're trying to get that paid off. You're trying to, and, I get the positions, but at the same time, I advanced so quickly, my salary never kept up with it. So the other people in this position were making 5 times what I was, and so there were a lot of things like that. And so, financial situation has always been, as I worked up in my career, was always a struggle, and, it was always a struggle. I didn't go on vacations. There were a lot of things I didn't do. I drove a little Ford Escort for 10 years until the damn thing died, so you sacrifice so that you could, I was working on paying off my school loans and things like that. But each step got me that much further ahead. And now I have a relatively comfortable life. And, and a couple years ago, I had to take 2 years off work to take care of some family and things like that. And I was able to do that. How many people can take 2 years off work? Right. So yeah, there have been many struggles along the way. Absolutely. And it wasn't until probably right before I started my business was when I was financially secure enough to take that risk. You know what I mean? And even then I really wasn't. I had some money saved up, and, and I had my debt, and I didn't have debt, which is, a good thing. I had just bought a house, so I did have a mortgage, and, but I knew what my expenses were going to be, and I had enough money saved up that I knew that I had a good year. And if it didn't work, I could always go, if I had to, I could go freaking wait tables again. I mean, well, again, what's the worst that's going to happen, right?
Yeah. No, I think you touched on some really great points, and I'm going to use the financial term that I know for debt to talk about struggle, which is the snowball effect. And I think that this really applies with your topic today. In a lot of people see their dream and it's like, this is my dream. And they feel that overnight it should just happen. And I've got caught up in this myself at times. Like I'm by no means, there's been times when I'm like, this is too hard. I'm dropping it. But again, was that something that I was truly passionate about then? Probably not.
Right.
But with my goal now, I see my end goal where I'd like to be in 20 years. And I hope that in 20 years, I'm exceeding it. But what's helping me through this is that snowball effect. What's my first hurdle? Let me get over that. And then I'm going to figure out the second hurdle. Because the second hurdle is not going to come until I actually get past that first hurdle, right?
Correct.
And you spoke about something else too. How we're always going to struggle, right? Even if business is going amazing and you're financially secure and you're abundant that way, it always ends up that sometimes, family, then, something happens with family or something happens with the house. There's always going to be something that can get in your way. And I really liked that you said that. Like, even today, we're sitting here and you have tornado warnings happening in your area. Oh, a little kitty, I love it. And we're doing it, right? We're like, we're going to do this. If we have to postpone, we postpone. But this is something that you wanted to do. It's a passion of mine, and we're here. And I really liked how you elaborated on that. You weren't just like, take it one step at a time. You incorporated, this is how I did it.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that. And I'd really like to talk to you because I'm super interested. I feel like you didn't just take a risk with the rock cellar. I feel like you really did jump in. We were talking a little bit before. You didn't know much about social media. And the rock cellar, although you have a Facebook page, is generally all your sales are done via Instagram, correct?
Correct.
And that's just amazing to me. So I love crystals. Everyone that kind of like comes and does a service with me, I have a few really large hearts that I carry around with me everywhere. They're my thing. And you've helped me identify a few minerals and crystals because I've been gifted a few crystals by angels lately, so that was amazing. But yes, like I'm super interested in just like hearing about that experience of starting this business, but also like what it is. I know what it is, but the rest of the people don't.
Okay, absolutely. So first off, the rock cellar is it's online. Well, actually, we will have a web shop eventually, but what it is sales of minerals and crystals, primarily to metaphysical practitioners, whether those are professionals that use crystals in their healing or Reiki practice or, whatever it is they do, meditation, yoga. There's so many different people that use them as well, and then people that use them in their personal practices. Now, we also provide crystals, minerals, specimens. So I have been a collector of minerals for, like I said, since I was 6. I'm in my 50s. So a very long time. And I wanted to be able to bring, one of the things, this is the deal. One of the things that I find so frustrating being in the metaphysical community is that there's so much BS out there around these things. People smack names on them to increase the prices, and they're peddling garbage versus quality. And then there's the whole issue, that exists today with sustainability. the questions about the mining practices, etc. And I'm probably going to be doing a talk in Sarah's group specifically on the sustainability and those aspects of this later. But anyway, so in looking at all of that, you know, I wanted to be able to provide a service to people where they knew that, one, they knew what they're going to get. You know, they know what they're getting. They get a good quality crystal. They get, and then for collectors, you know, again, having been a true mid to high end collector for a very long time, you know, I mean, I have specimens that are, you know, $5,000, $7,000. So, you know, and those aren't even, I mean, I would love to get into the really, really high end, but I'm not there yet. You know what I mean? At some point in time. But, so anyway, someone suggested to me, because I had all of this knowledge, why don't you do this? You know more than anybody I have ever talked to. Why don't you do this? Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, why don't I do this? So the struggle with this, though, is being in the metaphysical community. If my existing corporate client base would, you know, many of those would not have a very positive view on that. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So there is a big risk to me in doing this, but at the same time, I see an amazing opportunity to do something that I love, that can create an income stream that will give me the flexibility that I don't currently have. And that flexibility really is around location and being able to live wherever I want. I already, you know, basically set my own schedule. I will take clients when I choose to take clients, and then I'm with them for a year or a year and a half. But then if I want to take 6 months off, I take 6 months off. Mm-hmm. You know, so I do already have an extreme level of flexibility that other people don't have. And so when you look at starting this business and losing that, there's a huge risk going on here, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, and I mean, maybe I can build this business into something at the same income level that I make doing my consulting, but I don't know. I don't see why I couldn't, because I build businesses all the time. So why can't I do this? And yeah, it's starting out small, but anyway, so what am I supposed to be talking about? I'm not telling you. Sorry.
That's okay. I was like, I think she's looping around. No, that's fine. I just want you to talk more about the actual selling process of the rock cellar, and just kind of, you know, what people can expect when they come to your Instagram, Facebook, that kind of stuff. Right. I do like that you're starting a web shop eventually too. That's awesome. Yeah.
Okay. So what we do is we have right now just one sale a month. And it is an online crystal sale, and we will lay our table out there. Believe it or not, there are a lot of online crystal sellers. So if you do purchase, and I'm sure many of the people that listen to your podcast and you know, follow you on Instagram and on Facebook already buy from these people. They're great people that have been out there for a number of years, and they have great businesses already. And what you do is you do a live Instagram sale. And so you will show, you will show every single item, talk about them, explain them if you want, and then they have prices on them. And the first person that says mine at that price, they get to claim it. We've only had 3 sales so far, so 3 months of true activity, and they've been incredibly successful compared to most people. We are already doing the level of sales that most people don't even get to for a year or so, which is fantastic. But I think part of that is because I know the crystals, I know the minerals, I know the market. I know, so when I went to Tucson to buy inventory, I knew what I should be paying. I knew what I was buying. I know what the quality is. So when people get their items, they get great, amazing quality that, you know, a lot of other people don't have. And if it isn't perfect quality, I'm telling them that, you know, this doesn't quite meet my quality standards. I've priced it this way. This is what you're getting. And so we do this once a month. I want to move it to twice a month here in maybe at our 6-month point. And it's always on a Sunday right now. And through the summer, it'll be Sunday afternoons near the beginning of the month. And then, like I said, we will be opening our web shop as well. And the web shop is going to have I was going to call it the Vault, but there's another big rock seller that has something called the Vault for all the specialty stuff. And so I think I'm going to call it the Special Reserves.
Oh.
Right. And so in there are the higher end items and those very unique and rare specimens that, not the everyday thing. And that's it, because I don't want to have an online shop where I have to respond daily to someone. Again, I'm creating a business around a lifestyle that I want that is also going to simultaneously meet the needs of my customers and be there for them. And so, it's working that out and finding that balance there between what I want to do and what works for people. So I'm really excited about it. And like I said, I can't wait to get the web shop up, but I've got so many things going on and with our other businesses as well. So
yeah. And I really love that you just actually talked about something that I think a lot of people struggle with when they're first starting out in a business. And I don't even think you meant to do it, but how you're making this business fit your time. The business doesn't dictate, do you know what I mean? Like, you're running your business isn't running you. And I think that's a struggle that a lot of people have, especially at the beginning of their startup, basically, is that I have to be working my business 24/7 all the time. They run themselves so thin, and then of course it's going to fail. You have no energy to exceed, you have nothing. There's nothing left in those boosters to get you moving forward. So I really like that you actually just spoke about how this is on your terms, your time, and you don't want to be at the hand of your clients. You want to make your products kind of in demand, but within demand, you're not of demand of your time, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's really important, because that is a huge struggle that I think a lot of startups have.
So I'm gonna touch back on that.
Yeah.
And this is, I think this is important because we're talking about businesses and people starting their own businesses, and it's a mistake that many people make, and I see it very often. And when you do that, okay, so there's a fine line that you tread here.
Mm-hmm.
You should develop a business that's going to fit with your personal needs. You need to determine if your personal needs fit the business.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just take any business and make it fit your personal needs, because you will not be successful. Okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, and it's not just about burning yourself out. Okay, it's about different businesses take different things to make them successful. If you're not willing to do those things, then you're not going to be successful.
Right.
Okay, but there is a way where you can figure out what business model will be successful and that fits your needs. Okay. And I think a lot of people mess up there, okay? Because it comes down to that whole thing about, remember I said nothing's easy, everything's truly a struggle, it's all about sacrifice, it's all about trade-offs, etc. You can't wave your magic wand and say, this is what I want, and boom, it's going to be that way. And
Right.
Too many people actually think that. They are of the mindset, this is what I want, and so this is the way it's going to be. No, you are a business that you are meeting the needs of a customer, so you have to meet those needs. If you're not meeting those needs, you don't have a customer.
Right.
So, I see that way too often, particularly in our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly in our communities, because I think there's we're all looking for that balance. And I think we're looking for that balance a little bit more than you will find in, the regular business community. Don't you think?
I agree. Yeah, because we're healers, that kind of stuff, like light workers, right? We're working with the earth. And so why we're doing this is to bring balance to the earth, but also our clientele, for sure. Yeah.
Right. So back to that. I mean, and so there is this intrinsic desire to say, well, I should be able to do this. But that's just not the way it works. You can't force something into a box that it's not going to fit. Okay. Right. So there is still, there is still a box that any business that you has to fit in. You need to figure out, what that box is. You need to find the box that fits you, is sort of what I'm saying, and like I said, I see a lot of people make that mistake, and they get very, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't want to hear. They don't want to hear that they need to do it differently, etc. But sometimes it's just a minor tweak. You can still look in, and I tell everybody, look and start in an area that you have interest, and then figure out what component of that area you can offer. You don't need to do, X, Y, and Z. Maybe you only do the Z component because that fits what your mold is that you want for yourself personally. And it's really about finding that balance then. Oh. And, and one of the things that we talked about too, you're going to be successful at anything if you really enjoy it. And if you're trying to do something and you're not being successful because you're not meeting the needs of your client, you're not going to be happy and you're not going to be successful. Mm-hmm. So, and whether it's my consulting or whether it's doing this, I love what I do. Mm-hmm. So, you will be successful if you love what you do. You just have to make it fit. There are rules that it has to fit.
Yeah, I think what you were saying is you need to fit the need of your client, and basically your first client should always be you, right? Mm-hmm. And you need to fit the need of you, and when you're doing that, it's going to project out, and then your clients are going to go, wow, that's someone that I want to come in. And I completely agree with you there, and you're hitting the nail on the head. And I really liked also how you talked about how business and rocks are your passion, and you brought those together. You started your own business. Like you said, you help other people build their business. And so you're building this business for yourself out of the passion that you've had since you were this little girl. Mm-hmm. And, it's been your whole life. I mean, 6 might as well be 0. That's when you got your first set, but that doesn't mean that's really when your interest kind of peaked, right?
Well, believe it or not, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, unless it was a gift and you were like, wow, what are these things?
Actually, so I was very interested young. Growing up, I always wanted to be a geologist.
Oh, cool.
Until I found out you can't make any money at it, or very little money. And I was like, okay, I need to figure something else out here. So, yeah.
I love it. I feel like we're kind of getting to the end of the 45 minutes here, but I feel like I could talk to you for so much longer because, it's nice to talk to someone who we're in the same kind of line of work with regards to you sell me the tools that I use for my practice and such. But I would really like people to be able to connect with you. And do you know the date of your next sale?
Actually, yes. Our next sale is, I believe it's June 9th, which is a Sunday. So if it's not the 9th, it's that first Sunday. Let me just look on my calendar here. I think it is. Hold on. Wait. If I can get my calendar to cooperate, it won't cooperate with me. It's not moving. Yes, there we go. Okay. So yes, it is June 9th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. You can find us on Instagram it's at The Rock Cellar with a C, C-E-L-L-A-R, the play on words. We also have a Facebook page, which is The Rock Cellar, and our website is www.therockcellar.com. So, and like I said, hopefully I will Oh, every month I've been saying I will get the web shop up by the end of the month, but it seems like there's so many other things to do in starting a new business and continuing to work in my business and our other businesses that my husband have, etc. So there's just a lot, and family, and
Yeah.
it all gets in the way. So,
And that, hey, that's part of the struggle. Looking at what you can do, like you said, looking at what you can do now. And that workshop is a goal. You'll get there. You just, you're you're riding the wave a little bit right now, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. So,
and actually, one of the things that just brought up another, I think really important point. People get really frustrated when they're not, achieving all of those goals. So long as stuff comes up. There's always tomorrow. There's always next month. Don't let that get you down. I don't know how many times I readjust my schedule. It's a constantly changing thing. And I see so many people, they get frustrated and they want to give up because they haven't, I haven't done this and I haven't done this. Again, change that mindset. What have you done? Don't get away from that negative mindset. And I'm not one of these, love and light and everything's happy and this, that's not me at all. Okay. Not at all. But, at the same time, I think your mindset about achieving your goals and the things that you want to do in life, and whether it's your business or whatever it is, say yes, don't say no. It's not what I didn't do, it's what I did do this month. Set those little goals, take that next step and worry about the next big step later. So many people overwhelm themselves and, like I said, I do these multi-billion-dollar transactions. I have thousands of people that are running around and companies, and they're all going to lose their jobs if I don't find a way to fix this, and there's 10,000 balls up in the air, and you can't let it overwhelm you. You will get to everything when you can, and you fight and you figure it out, and you always have, if you always have this backup too in your mind about, okay, if I don't do this, what's really going to happen? And do I need a backup plan for that? So that you always have plan B. That's your best thing. Don't worry about the end goal so much. Worry about your plan B so that if you need to, you can roll over to that. And then, and that helps. And whether, like I said, whether it's in life, whether it's finding a new house, whether it's, getting that education, whatever. If it doesn't work out this time, okay, what's your plan B?
Yeah.
You're going to get there. You just keep going. You're going to get there.
What a wonderful way to end that chat. I really thank you for that. Michelle, it was such a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much. If you would like to be a featured gem, please reach out. You can DM me on Instagram or on Messenger, Facebook Messenger. Michelle, you and your business are a gem. Thank you.